Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt an overwhelming sense of self-rejection? Like no matter what you do, you just can't love yourself? You're not alone. Self-hate is often the silent, painful undercurrent beneath the surface of many lives, quietly sabotaging happiness and growth. But what if this feeling isn't just about low self-esteem or external failures? What if it has deep psychological roots, buried wounds from your past, and unresolved internal conflicts that must be understood before healing can begin? Today, we're diving into the true origins of self-hate and the path to rediscovering self-love, the origins of self-hate, childhood wounds, and internalized neglect. Self-hate often takes root early in life, where childhood wounds shape the core narrative you carry about yourself. Many of us grow up in environments where emotional needs are unmet, whether through neglect, criticism, or lack of validation. These early experiences implant deep messages that you are not enough, not worthy of love or attention. Children naturally seek acceptance and safety, but when these are withheld, a toxic internal story forms. This internalized neglect manifests as a deep void, where self-love struggles to survive. Your mind learns to associate your very being with failure or rejection, embedding shame and unworthiness as default states. Over time, this becomes so automatic, it feels like an unchangeable truth. Even as adults, we replay these childhood wounds in our self-talk, relationships, and decision-making. Recognizing these roots is essential, not to blame your past, but to understand why self-hate feels so persistent. Healing begins when you can separate your true self from the false beliefs planted in childhood. You are not your childhood wounds. This realization opens the door for new, healthier narratives about your worth and capacity for love. The role of the inner critic. When your mind becomes your worst enemy, inside your mind lives a voice many call the inner critic, a relentless judge that belittles your efforts and magnifies flaws. This inner critic is not an objective observer, but a learned echo of past voices, parents, teachers, or peers, who imposed harsh standards or criticism. Instead of supporting you, this voice attacks, saying you're inadequate, unlovable, or a failure. Psychologically, the inner critic serves a misguided purpose. It tries to protect you from rejection or failure by pushing you to improve or avoid mistakes. But its effect is devastating. It erodes your self-esteem, fuels anxiety and depression, and keeps you trapped in a cycle of self-punishment. The inner critic is powerful because it disguises itself as truth, making you believe you deserve this harsh treatment. But the real self, the part of you that is worthy of love, is buried beneath this noise, waiting to be heard. Learning to recognize and challenge the inner critic is a vital step toward reclaiming self-love. When you separate your identity from these harsh judgments, you begin to create space for kindness, acceptance, and healing. The impact of trauma and emotional abuse on self-perception. Trauma and emotional abuse leave scars far deeper than physical wounds. When you experience emotional harm, whether overt or subtle, it fractures your sense of safety and self-worth. These experiences tell your subconscious that you are not deserving of care or respect, reinforcing self-hate at a fundamental level. Trauma rewires your brain's threat detection system, making you hyper-vigilant to rejection or criticism. You might internalize blame for what happened, wrongly believing you caused your suffering. This toxic self-blame creates a lasting shadow over your self-pity, leading to feelings of shame, guilt, and isolation. Emotional abuse can distort your understanding of love, teaching you to expect pain or neglect instead of acceptance. This distorted lens colors your relationships with yourself and others, perpetuating cycles of self-sabotage and toxic connections. Healing from trauma requires gentle, sustained work, often with professional support, to reframe these painful memories and rebuild a safe, loving relationship with yourself. It's a gradual process of reclaiming your story and redefining what love and worthiness mean to you, beyond the wounds inflicted by others. How unmet needs create a void that feeds self-rejection. Human beings are wired for connection, acceptance, and safety. When these fundamental needs go unmet, especially in formative years, they create an inner void that fuels self-rejection. This void is not just emotional emptiness, but a deep, gnawing sense of something is wrong with me. Unmet needs can be physical, emotional, or psychological. Love, validation, security, autonomy. When you don't receive these essentials, your psyche compensates by generating self-critical beliefs that explain the lack. You may believe you're unlovable or flawed, which justifies the absence of care you experience. This void often manifests as feelings of loneliness, anxiety, or depression. You might seek external validation or substances to fill the emptiness, but these are temporary fixes that never truly satisfy. The more you chase external approval, the more disconnected you become from your intrinsic worth. Understanding that this void stems from unmet needs, not from personal failure, allows you to begin nurturing yourself in new ways. Meeting your own emotional needs, setting boundaries, and practicing self-care become revolutionary acts of healing that dissolve self-rejection and invite self-love. The shadow self. Embracing parts you've tried to bury. The shadow self consists of all parts of you that you reject or deny: pain, anger, jealousy, shame, because society or upbringing taught you they were unacceptable. Instead of embracing these parts as facets of your humanity, you hide them deep within, fearing exposure or rejection. This repression intensifies self-hate, because these shadow parts don't disappear. They distort your self-position and sabotage your efforts to feel whole. They operate beneath conscious awareness, often causing confusion, emotional outbursts, or destructive behaviors. Carl Jung taught that healing requires embracing the shadow, not fighting it. When you acknowledge these hidden parts with compassion, they lose their power over you. You begin to integrate your whole self, discovering that what you feared in darkness actually holds wisdom and strength. This integration leads to profound self-acceptance and reduces the inner conflict fueling self-hate. By making peace with your shadow, you open the door to authentic self-love and freedom. The trap of conditional self-worth. Why you tie love to performance. One of the most destructive patterns feeding self-hate is conditional self-worth, the belief that you must earn love and acceptance through achievements, appearance, or behavior. This mindset is learned early when love feels contingent on meeting expectations. When your worth depends on performance, every failure or setback becomes evidence that you're unlovable. This pressure fuels anxiety, perfectionism, and relentless self-judgment. Instead of loving yourself unconditionally, you become your harshest critic. Conditional self-worth disconnects you from your inherent value as a human being. It creates a cycle where love is never guaranteed, only temporarily earned, keeping you in constant fear of rejection. Breaking free means learning that your worth is intrinsic and unchanging, not dependent on external validation. This shift is challenging but necessary to heal self-hate and develop a stable foundation of self-love that doesn't waver with success or failure. The healing journey, cultivating compassion and rebuilding your relationship with yourself. Healing self-hate is a courageous journey rooted in cultivating compassion for your wounds, struggles, and imperfections. It requires patience and intentional practice to replace old patterns of criticism with kindness and acceptance. Begin by observing your self-talk and gently challenging harsh judgments. Embrace mindfulness to stay present with your feelings without resistance. Seek supportive relationships or professional help to guide you through painful memories and limiting beliefs. Rebuilding your relationship with yourself means honoring your needs, setting healthy boundaries, and celebrating your unique worth beyond accomplishments or flaws. It's about learning to treat yourself as a precious, deserving human rather than an enemy. This journey isn't linear. There will be setbacks and growth, but each step forward dismantles the psychological roots of self-hate. Over time, you cultivate a resilient, compassionate self-love that transforms how you experience life, relationships, and your own potential. Loving yourself isn't about perfection or constant positivity. It's about acknowledging your wounds, embracing your imperfections, and reclaiming your inherent worth that was never truly lost. The journey out of self-hate is difficult but possible, and it begins with understanding the psychological roots that bind you. If this video spoke to you, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more insights that empower your growth. And most importantly, start today by offering yourself the kindness you deserve.